Certainly made some great discussions. We're going to open up the floor to some questions. We have a few more minutes. Yeah, sure, right over here. I think we got a microphone for you.
I can speak loud enough. In any of the proceedings where the Coyotes are making money, you talk about the history. Did the NHL ever discuss contraction? I know that's something that the NHL has discussed, maybe the NBA has discussed. Was that ever something that was, or what's your, and if it wasn't, what would be your opinion on that?
Well, I don't think it ever came up in the legal proceedings. And I think one of the things that was driving the Coyotes case is, in my view, it's very clear that the league did a lot of what they did because Glendale had spent $180 million to build a very nice hockey arena out there. And if the NHL kind of, once it turns its back on that and walks away, the chance of another arena being built in some other city for another franchise is probably zealous. And I mean, when you look at both the amount of money and the effort that the league has put in out there, it's very significant. I think it's all driven by that.
The NHL, there's two other dynamics going on. Number one, the NHL always had plausible deniability on the money that was lost because they always blamed it on management, the poor management of the owners. And the second thing is, remember who was the brainchild of this hockey in non-traditional hockey markets. It was Bettman, the current commissioner. For him to stand up and say, oh, by the way, I messed up and there's really no, let's contract the league and get them out of here. It would have been, I think, unthinkable, so we didn't, that never came up in any of the discussions that we had.
Jeff?
Something that's always interested me in the whole Coyotes saga has been the city of Glendale in their position, very ardent to never let any sort of owner out of the lease or have any compromise as to how long the team needs to stay in Glendale in order to be allowed to relocate if it's not financially viable. So my question more revolves around, is the city of Glendale's sole interest here making sure that they can be repaid over time the value that they paid out to build Jobbing.com Arena and the raising of additional bonds? And if for some reason they're left holding the bag because hockey ultimately doesn't end up as being viable in the desert, is their next move then municipal bankruptcy, or what type of ramifications would there be if they, if the franchise leaves eventually?
Well, they shouldn't have turned down our money. That would have made a whole lot of sense. I think it's kind of a combination of thinking that they would make money from the Coyotes over the long run, and that they really thought they could keep a team there. And you have to know that in a bankruptcy case, you have the right to breach a contract and just make the breach damages a pre-petition unsecured claim. So you can breach a contract and go forward in a bankruptcy case. And in fact, when you're talking about a lease, there's a cap, a limit on the amount of your damages, so that you don't even have to split the pie of damages quite so much. But I think it's a combination of that and just hubris. We're Glendale. We brought them out here in the first place, and we're going to make money, and everybody's going to come out here.
And that's the reason why they've been so ardent in the position, not seeming to want to compromise. That, as you said, we're Glendale, and we brought this team here, and that's how it's going to be.
It will be interesting to see if their voters ever.
And I think the other thing that we need to keep in mind is this. That Glendale Arena, which is, it is beautiful, state of the art. I mean, it's really gorgeous. There's 40 home games a year. There's 40 home games a year. The Coyotes don't even practice there. They practice up in the ice den primarily. And so what do they do with this stadium? The other 2/3 plus of the year, well, there's concerts, there's this, there's that. So it's not exactly like if the team left, they would shutter it. Granted, it would be an economic loss. Of course it would be. But it's not like they would have to shutter it because that facility was intended to be a multi-use facility.
It's a hockey business question. The Coyotes moved halfway through their season. Veterans Memorial Coliseum was somewhat empty when they played. Their first half season, you could not get a ticket. They were sold out that half season, and I believe they were sold out for their first season in that arena. I don't get it. Why are they losing money? I know the NFL's guaranteed TV things, but is it, where was the...
Well, the structure of the National Hockey League is different from the other three leagues. Because National Hockey League doesn't have the massive TV contract that the other league does. And so if I remember correctly, about half of each team's gross revenue comes from ticket sales. And, you know, I've read the financial statements for about the last, audited financial statements for I think in the last 6 or 7 years, and look briefly at the historically, they've never made a profit since 1996, whether it was downtown or out where they are now. And so, you know, when you think about the city and the hunt for the new buyer to take it over and keep it there, that's somebody who's got some awfully deep pockets to want to step into that and think, you know, I can carry it for whatever period of time it's going to take me to get it to at least break even.
And it's telling, by the way, that on the offers that we did know about, where these buyers were going to keep it there, almost every offer to the offer had this break clause that says we're going to keep it there for X years, and if we can't make a profit in X years, then you agree we can get out of this lease so that they can move the team. So no, you know, there were a couple that said, oh yeah, we'll keep it there for the other 24 years of the lease or something, but for the most part, it was, almost all of them had this break clause because they knew that it was just too difficult.
There was an article in the Arizona Republic, maybe yesterday, talking about how the Coyotes as a team weren't going to let these outside factors bother them throughout the season. And without getting into the mindset of coaches or players or whoever it may be throughout the season when something's going on like this, I'm just curious about the day-to-day operations of a hockey franchise and how much those are affected by the uncertainty of, will it be bankruptcy, or are we going to be gone tomorrow, or if it actually is possible to truly separate those and just have people do their jobs.
Well, as soon as the bankruptcy case was filed, there was a motion filed for funding. And initially, Mr. Balsillie was going to loan the Phoenix Coyotes the money so they could operate through the closing of the sale. And immediately, the National Hockey League came in, and just Major League Baseball did the same thing in the Dodger case, and said, we'll fund it, and we'll fund it on more advantageous terms. And they did. So in terms of the economic operations and the ability of the Coyotes and the Dodgers to meet their day-to-day operating expenses, there was never any question about that. It's really hard to know what's the effect on professional athletes when your team is in Chapter 11. Is there an effect? Who knows?
Coyotes went to the
But it is
playoffs.
interesting, Kellen.
Yeah, finally.
But it is interesting in this sense. File the Coyotes, and before the 2009-2010 season, they make the playoffs for the first time since 2002 or 2001. Rangers go into bankruptcy. What do? They want to win the World Series. I mean, the year that they were in bankruptcy, the Dodgers kind of broke that pattern just a tad. Just a tad. But then again, they've broken that pattern in the past. So, but you know, we were in regular contact with not the players, but certainly the management, the day-to-day management out there. And what they said to us is a lot of these guys, look, they're professionals. When it's not like you say, I'll be in Phoenix for the rest of my career. I mean, they move around. It's the nature of their beast, right? I mean, they can be playing for Phoenix today and Calgary tomorrow. They go in that sense. And again, the players' contracts were never in question. Nobody was ever saying, we're trying to renegotiate your contracts. We made that clear day one, taking the contracts, players' contracts. So they always knew, one way or the other, their contracts were going to be done. So unlike the employee who says, oh my God, am I going to have a job tomorrow? They didn't have that.
And the Dodgers probably had in Kershaw the best pitcher in the National League, and in Kemp, arguably the best hitter in the National League. So at least those two guys seem to be totally unaffected by everything going on.
Other questions?
Thanks a lot for your time. Thank you, panelists.